Greetings, Culturians, and welcome back to the channel. Well, we are back here. And when I say that, I'm talking specifically about Avatar. And I think nobody will disagree that these films are spectacular visually. But that's where it ends. And the bigger problem that they have is that they're just too long. It takes a long time to get through one of these particular films. And that's not good for the audience. It's not good for the exhibitors. And it's not good for profits. But Disney wants to change all of that with Avatar with a few tweaks. And we'll see if James Cameron gives in. Let's jump into the story. Here we go. And that's just it. Disney wants cheaper, shorter, even faster Avatar sequels. They want to release these things in a way that, well, it gets this process over with quickly. And I understand that. The inclination after Fire and Ash is to just, lean into James and say, can you make these shorter so we can get, more money in? Because ultimately, isn't that what we're all here for? You already get the majority of the take anyway of the split that we have to split with you, but we would like to make more money, please. The only way to do that is with shorter and cheaper films, and I think that's a reasonable ask. But I also think another reasonable ask is for you to check and double check that you're still subscribed to the channel. I am trying to get to 50,000, so if you look down there and you make sure you click on the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, and then click on the bell icon, which turns on all notifications, and then hit the thumbs up button, well, you're doing me a huge favor, and you're also help building the channel, which again, we're doing rapidly. And if you haven't checked out the new That Garden Place channel, you might want to follow over there as well. We're almost at 500 subscribers, and I'm proud of that. But let's get into this article coming to us from Jordan Rumi over at World of Real. Disney wants cheaper and shorter Avatar sequels after Fire and Ash. And you know what? I think it's reasonable. And according to producer Ray Sencini, who told Inverse that right now, we're figuring out the schedule. We're working hard on it right now, budgeting, scheduling, planning, building out our new pipeline for them. As far as we're concerned, we're full speed ahead. And of course, they were talking about Avatar 4 and 5, which were in doubt because Fire and Ash didn't earn enough money fast enough to make an argument for, well, making more of them. If they're profitable, that's a different conversation. But I'd argue, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, but these don't make a lot of profit, especially they don't make a lot of money for Disney. They do a good job of making James Cameron fairly wealthy with his production company, Lightstorm, but I don't think that Disney is getting a payback on their investment. And I think much like with Star Wars, some of that phantom profit's going to the wrong places. But back to the story. Avatar 4 and 5, which aren't a done deal despite the 2029 and 2031 dates set for those sequels, another interesting report came in from The Wrap, exploring the behind-the-scenes efforts to make these sequels happen at Disney. Apparently, conversations are underway about how to make them cheaper and shorter so the investment becomes truly less risky for Disney, who is basically acting as financier. These discussions are occurring after the latest installment, which was Fire and Ash, underperforming at the box office, grossing only $1.4 billion. Only $1.4 billion is a big deal. This is a follow-up to the original and a subsequent film, Avatar, which was produced and put out in the world in 2009 after a long production cycle. The highest-grossing film ever and earning over $2.4 billion worldwide. While the sequel, Avatar: The Way of Water 2022, is in the third position all-time at $2.3 billion. I would say inflation helped The Way of Water get into that category, but that's a different conversation entirely. Based on conversations The Wrap had with Disney, all seem to agree that the next Avatar movie, if it ever happens, would need to be shorter and cheaper. It certainly helps that Cameron already shot scenes for Avatar 4 during production of Avatar Fire and Ash, with one source saying around 22% of the fourth film has already been filmed. And that's good news. And the idea that Cameron does this along the way, because there are going to be moments that they want to call back to, or there are sets that they want to take down, and they want to still have the scenes from the next film already shot on those sets. What if they're going to burn something down? What if they're going to do something pretty heinous with that same area? It makes a lot of sense of to get everything, all the footage you could possibly need. A lot of B-roll, as it were, or in this case, A-roll for this particular film. So one member of the Avatar team tells the outlet that Cameron is now a man on a mission, putting any other projects aside to make room for Avatar 4. In their own words, if Avatar Fire and Ash had reached $2 billion, Cameron might have pursued another project before returning to Pandora. Instead, he's now focused on completing the installments 4 and 5. The question is, will we get 6, 7, or any of the other things he'd ever talked about? This time I could see him being like, I'm on a mission, the source said. I believe unequivocally that he will finish his 5-film saga. Never bet against James Cameron. Although I would say it's a fair bet he gets his way with 4 and 5. He has, after all, delivered for Disney in many different ways, and losing his production partner didn't help. He's got to do this solo and without the benefit of another voice trying to, well, either rush him along or keep him in between the lines. Now, that person might have become his wife, but his longtime collaborator is just not with us anymore, unfortunately. So why all the micromanaging from Disney? These Avatar movies don't come cheap, costing $400 million plus each. That's a lot of money. Yet there is no doubt about the frustration. A member of the Avatar team, speaking with the Wrap, calls it bologna sausage that the movie made $1.5 billion and people are acting like it's Ishtar. Ishtar historically is one of the biggest box office catastrophes ever released upon an unsuspecting public that I think should go down in the history books as a disaster, if not much more severe. But there's not a guarantee that they're all going to make $2 billion, and that's a reasonable statement. The trilogy has made $6.7 billion, which averages more than $2 billion per film, but really relying on the first film primarily and the multiple re-releases that it had along the way. This is the kind of conversation that needs to exist in Hollywood circles and in particular within Disney because they're not made of money anymore and their machine's not exactly clicking at full speed. But yet the question ultimately remains, should Disney be in the financier position that they are with James Cameron? Was this deal that they struck in their best interests long term? And is it possible that Avatar could or would be able to succeed in all 5 films? I think that's a stretch. I think we've seen franchises that have gone on too long and their final films kind of limping in at the box office in an embarrassing way. Would be a shame if Avatar ended that way, but it wouldn't surprise me. James Cameron is somebody that I wouldn't bet against, especially on a, initial film, first in a franchise or a potential franchise, and he certainly seems to deliver on number 2. The question is number 3, 4, 5, and 6. Well, 3 answered the question for us that it was a far cry from the first 2 films, and we feel like we'd been there and done that. Is there any new way to reinvent this story of Fern Gully all over again and get you back interested? Or are you just going to move on with your day and maybe catch this on streaming at some point? Either way, I'm done with my analysis of this one, but how about you? If you could answer any of the questions that I've proffered just a few moments ago, that would be brilliant. Also, do think about the fact that if these were cheaper and shorter, they would get more cycles through the theaters, then potentially earning more money, which I think ultimately is just what Disney wants to do, and I'm certain the exhibitors would appreciate it. What do you think? Again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. They really help with the algorithm. They really help me. Plus, I like to talk about this stuff with you. That's why you're here, right? Almost 50,000 of you. Anyway, as always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya. But probably not at an Avatar movie. Yikes.